All right, welcome everybody. I know last time we saw each other was over Mardi Gras, and I was sitting on Friday night trying to think about what the hell I'm going to write on Sunday after 10 days of Mardi Gras and fun, and I don't want to talk about Mardi Gras again. And at 7:39 on Friday, I got this email from Arthur. He goes, "Hey, Tim, my team at Google just launched a 1 million context window and video input text output," which I have no idea what he's talking about. "I'd love to share this with the new society community. This would be early access since it's behind a wait list, and even though we made a public announcement, this is a pretty big monumental time in AI history." And so with that, we are so excited to have Arthur here, who's going to help bring us through the new release of Gemini 1.5. A little bit about Arthur. Arthur is from the Bay Area, but is a New Orleans resident. Welcome to New Orleans. He's been working in high tech for the last 9 years, over 9 years with Sun Microsystems, Cisco Systems, with Sunza, which was acquired by Google, which is now he's at Google. He also managed Google's in-house incubator program for a while. He is now the lead of growth and community for AI, bar Gemini, at Google for Google Labs. And most importantly, the most important part of this, he is a board member with the Rolling LBI. So, right.
Yes, right here. Good.
Okay, just to kick this off, Arthur, welcome. Thank you for being here. And thank you for sharing this with the group. So why is this a pretty big and monumental time in AI history?
Awesome. So I will answer that, but I do want to say I am missing an LVI board meeting right now for this, so just to be super clear.
Don't tell Scott, right?
Oh, God, yeah, don't tell Scott. So on Thursday, two very big things happened, and one of them Google wasn't aware of that it was happening, and one Google was part of. And the two things that happened, does anyone know? Anyone want to shout out one of them? Yeah? Sora launched. Does anyone know what Sora is? Okay, fantastic. So OpenAI launched a new modality, which is text to video. Incredible. I think it does 1-minute videos. You can enter a prompt and get a very high quality video. I mean, the physics were amazing in the video. Very monumental. This is the first high quality text to video modality. So this happened. But right before that launch, Google launched 1 million context window. What is a 1 million context window? Well, to date, most models handle in small tokens. And so small tokens, what is a token? Let's start with that first. A token is, it's a piece of information. So that could be a word, that could be an image, that could be a video. And those tokens limit how much you can send to the model. There's cost implications, there's compute implications, et cetera. And so tokenization is the way that they deal. It's the currency essentially for dealing with an LLM. To date, the current tokens for that had been up to date. So Google had a 32,000 context window. So you could put and think about a token as about 3 to 4 words. So you could add 3 to 4 words. By 32,000, you can input that into the prompt as you're trying to converse with the LLM. The next big monumental moment that happened many, many, many months ago was Claude. Does anyone know what Claude's launch was? Cool. It was about 200,000. Did someone say it? 200,000, which was very monumental at the time, many, many months ago, which is a lot. It's a lot of tokens. Mostly text at that point, so there's a lot of text that you could prompt in. But then Google came and added a 1 million context window. So that still doesn't say like why this is important, but you can at least get an idea of how big this is. You can add lots of information in a single one-shot prompt. When I say one-shot prompt, it's literally saying, hey LLM, hey large language model, hey Gemini, I would love for you to make my give me an itinerary for a week for a vacation. I'm going to Austin, which is happening coming up here soon. I'm going on vacation to Austin. give me an itinerary. You could send that. That's not that many tokens. That's not that many words. And you could do that. And that's all you could do for a while. But now with 1 million context window, what can you do? You could put, and if you guys can see over there, you could do 1 hour of video. You could upload an entire video, a 1 hour video, and that would count under the 1 million context window. You could do 11 hours of audio. You could do greater than 30 lines of code. You could also do 700,000 words. That's still, I mean, you get an idea of, like, wow, that sounds like a lot. But imagine you went and took 3 books. You were a student, and you went and you took 3 to 4 books, you uploaded them, and you said, create me a quiz. I have a test tomorrow. Create me a bunch of flashcards. You couldn't do that before. You could only do single, small, 32,000 text input. Now you can actually send entire books, entire videos, etc., and you can get summarization, categorization, translations, etc. This is a very monumental moment. It's monumental from the number of use cases from any practical person, like any end user. You have so much you can do, so you don't need to be a technical person to get the value of this. But from a technical perspective, this is also very monumental because we went from, in just a year, 32,000 to 200,000 to 1 million. It was A, a flex, but B, it was just a very big technical monumental moment for Google. So I'll stop there.
I got a lot of questions, but
Yeah,
so in stepping back, so as a human being using this thing, how is this going to transform our daily lives? What could I use this for? What are some applications that you see that we're going to realize, oh my gosh, I never knew I couldn't do this before?
So I'll say this first before I get into specific applications. What I'll say first is that when you start to think about large language models as an assistant, as a co-pilot, as an aid, all these words mean the same thing, but as an aid, it's really a tool for you in whatever you're trying to do. So, and the applications, they're endless. I know you guys can't. You have to look over there to see what I'm saying, and so I just give a few examples here, but I'll say these in words as well. And I said this the last time I came here. I think machine learning, this is the first time, probably this era, machine learning has been around for a very long time. This is the first time in the last few years where machine learning has become accessible to anyone. You don't have to be a technical person creating transformers, going in, doing, creating classifiers, all these things. Now you can just prompt, you can send text, natural language text, to a large language model and say, do this thing for me. Give me this thing. Summarize this thing. Categorize this thing. Come up with the top 100 tweets that I should copy and paste here just based off this image so that I can copy and paste it right into my X account. When you think about it as a co-pilot and the accessibility of it, it's incredible. We've taken something so deeply technical and put it in everyone's pocket. We've given everyone the ability to do this. How many people in here use ChatGPT? Awesome. How many people in here are technical? How crazy was that? Did you guys take a look at that? So like everyone's used ChatGPT, but not many technical people have used it. If you had talked about machine learning 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I think everyone would have said, probably A, what's ChatGPT? But even if it did exist, people would say, machine learning? No, I can't. That's way out of my reach. So I'll just say, first of all, it's accessible to everyone. So that's a huge win. But when we talk about applications, so I'll give a few interesting ones that I'm seeing, just based off of this launch, I'm seeing people use. And they fall under a few categories. One is productivity. Fun, and co-pilot. And they're all somewhat similar, but I think there's those 3 categories. So let's start with co-pilot. From a co-pilot perspective, let's take the technical perspective just for a second, and I think you guys will see value even if you're not a technical person. Writing code is hard. It's hard for anyone. It's hard for developers. It's hard to write good code. It's hard to test your code. It takes time. We now live in a world with a 1 million context window where you could take your entire code base, you could upload it, and you could say, write me a bunch of tests to verify that this will work. You could do that. Before, you would have to go through every function and method, and you would have to write unit tests, and you would have to do all this. You could just ask the LLM to do it for you. So this is one, quite technical. Number two, I have an error. Find all the errors in my code base and give me suggestions on how to fix it. I mean, when you think about that perspective, I probably would have passed my classes way faster in CS, but it's incredible. I mean, you're taking, and you can translate this to any field, right? Write me an essay. Here's the book, upload the book. Write me an essay about this book and do it in my voice. You could do that, whereas before you couldn't. So Copilot. Number two, I'm seeing fun. So I'm seeing a lot of people who are, and I'll demo this later, but I'm seeing a lot of people who are love the ability to find the quirky and nicheness of certain things. So like, give you an example. People are uploading videos and saying, summarize this. Let's start with the basics. Summarize this video for me. Just huge video, takes 500,000 tokens. It's a 5 to 10 minute video. Summarize this for me. I don't even need to watch it. That's a total bummer because watching movies is great, but summarize this for me. Next, I want you to find that moment in this video where somebody handed somebody a gift. And this is a 10-minute video. Just it's a gift, anything. This moment where someone entered the door. The actor that was speaking with this other actor at this point in the video. The LLM can do this. This is incredible, but it's niche. It's fun. Productivity. I'm seeing probably the most use cases where I think I start to get excited about the world and the power of AI when I think about productivity. I'm seeing people use this for, I want you to help me create, I don't have the fund. I'm a small startup. I don't have the funds to create a marketing department. I don't have the funds to create a social department. I want to use the LLM to craft me a bunch of blog posts, X posts, social posts, and also what is something that will go viral. What are the steps to do that? And this is incredible. This is incredible. When you think about it without the productivity hack or the I'm a small startup, I'm not good in this field, when you start to think about this is something that it's a companion with you, and it can really increase productivity. Now, I hope that we increase productivity and then we all spend more time with our family and our friends and our loved ones. We'll probably just end up working more and more. But I do love the fact that we are creating tools and people are seeing this and are rounding out their knowledge and taking things that were once difficult fields and democratizing them.
So a couple of things you said that spark a question of this could spur a whole new wave of innovation. This is going to open up like the internet did and others. If I'm an entrepreneur, in your mind, where's the puck going? Where would be some remarkable spaces that's next that is going to get to us fast and I could be there first?
I love this question because I see this as an arc. I get asked this question a lot, and I think people jump to robots are taking over, AI is taking over the world, robots are taking over the world is over. People see that and like, oh, that's the next 10 years, that's where we're going. But I actually see this as an arc, and anyone who's not seeing it as an arc, I get kind of scared because things are happening daily. I mean, the technological advancements are just happening so fast that to think too far out is almost missing the point. We're hallucinating, just like our LLMs. We're hallucinating a bit here. So I will say that there are a few frontiers that I think if I were giving ideas of what to focus on, I think I would start with very technical. I think what you're seeing now more than anything is that chips, resources, when I say resources, I mean TPUs, GPUs, the things, the processing power that runs these LLMs are very expensive. There's also limited supply. And so when I think about opportunities, I think from a very technical perspective, someone needs to solve this. Using an LLM, there are only a few big players in the space that can build them and can offer them, because you need lots of infrastructure and you need a lot of money to purchase this. And again, supply chains are quite limited. So I think just this is an immediate next step future thing. But if I take it out of the less technical, I start to think about a world where, well, let's actually go to the next part of the arc. The next part of the arc would be more modalities. So today, even with this Gemini 1.5 launch and what you've seen with Sora and what you've seen even Firefly, Adobe's, you're starting to see this modality of, we went from text, we now have text to image, and you send an image and you get text output. We have video as a modality. What do you guys think is naturally next? Oh, give me something. Smell would be amazing. Wow, totally new thing. Now we're hallucinating again. I love that. I want what he's drinking. So I would say audio is probably a natural modality that's next. What was that? Oh, creating. You can imagine another modality of building and creating things. I want to create X. I want a social platform that does Y. I need a personality that does Z. So I think these are natural modalities that I think will come next. This is a natural arc. I don't think there's any crazy or surprises by this. The third thing I would say is where I start to, I don't think everyone's on board with this yet, but I start to imagine a world where the power of LLMs is large language models are the best autocomplete in the world. They're trained on natural language. They're incredible at processing lots of natural language, making connections, and outputting content. When I start to think about that it's one of the best autocompletes in the world, I start to think about what happens to creativity? What happens to new content? What happens to new innovations? What happens when we get to this world where it's just trained on all previous content that exists in the world? So I actually, and I said this last time, and I firmly believe this, but I think this is probably the longest term future, is I start to think about creatives. I think about the creative people. I think about artists. I think about people who are generating unique and creative content, and I start to get really excited. I find that, and by the way, none of that's technical, right? I'm not talking about technical creators and artists. I'm talking about artists in general. These are the people who create delight in the world that we love to consume. As New Orleans, we love to go watch Mardi Gras parades. We love our jazz bands. We love Big Frida. Like, we love, these people create amazing moments for us that the LLMs can't give us. They're giving us now because there's shock value in everything that's happening. But I imagine a world where, and you're actually seeing this too, but I imagine a world where creators are at the forefront of creating and generating new content, as they will always do. It's not a new thing for a creator. They will always do that. But now they will be using this Copilot or this tool, this LLM as a tool to help them augment, or maybe they become I'm sure you guys have heard this term, prompt engineers, for example. But imagine that they are the new era of creators having these tools and using these tools to augment what they do and generate new content for all of us to still benefit from. And you're actually seeing this. I think about a year ago or less than a year ago, although this got pulled very quickly, but you saw a music artist, I forget what label it was from, but they had a complete AI artist. And it was generating content, and it wasn't good. It was very early days. But I look at that, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. That's someone thinking in this space of, how do I take an artist, or how do I take a persona from the arts and use the LLM to power it? And I do see a future in that.
So if the people who create the amazing moments, the creators, and New Orleans has a lot of these creators, and if they were all in this room and said, guys, girls, people, what would be your message to them now that for New Orleans to be positioned for the future? Maybe we have a shot of being at the forefront. What would be your message to creators now?
It would be get rid of all your Apple devices, use Android only. It would be, I mean, I think this one's the simplest one. I believe this. When I said a monumental moment, I get really tingly. I've been in tech for quite some time. There's very few moments where I'm watching change happen live and that change feels big. It feels really big. It feels so big. I mean, somebody who went to, I went to undergraduate and studied engineering. I've been doing engineering for quite some time. I'm watching a moment going, oh man, if I don't hold on to this, I will lose out. Like, this is more powerful than anything I've seen. And so I say that unlike other times where you're watching incremental improvements and innovations, this is a huge leap. And I would say, unlike crypto or other things, I would say that this one, you don't want to have this pass you by. And I would say get educated. And I wouldn't say this if we were talking machine learning. I wouldn't say everyone go get a CS degree. This is a totally different world. What I'm actually saying is play with these tools. I asked how many people are playing with ChatGPT, and everyone in here. That's the first step. I think the next step is how do you create and generate new content? How do you become a creator yourself? How do you use these tools to create productivity? How do you educate others to use these tools? Do not let this moment pass you by, because this will be here for quite some time. I'll probably eat my words a year from now, like VR and AR, but well, actually Vision Pro is out, right? So everyone's excited again. But I would say this is a monumental time to educate yourself on generative AI in general.
I think you mentioned earlier there's 900 people that have been allowed off the waiting list. And so far, what in your mind, or do you see is not the differences or the advantages and disadvantages of Gemini 1.5 versus ChatGPT 4? How do you see?
So I love this. Hopefully, I can't wait till this recording gets
shared.
Yeah, woo. So let's hit that one. So I'll hit the first thing. This is announced to this moment. Talk about monumental moment in just technological history. This is also a monumental moment right here, right now, because exactly what you said. We announced this publicly. The number of people who have this is around 900 people today. It's announced public. The world's talking about this. How many people are on X? How many people are watching the Gemini 1.5 amazingness happening all over X? How many are watching this or seeing it? Only 900 people in the world have this thing, playing with it. That's incredible. So this just, for you guys, is a monumental moment that we're just able to sit here and talk about this. The world's talking about it, but not many people have it. We'll change that later today. I think that, remind me of your question. Yeah.
ChatGPT.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Sorry. So what I challenge, what Google has done, what ChatGPT has done really well is ChatGPT has created a brand awareness around their chat interface. This web tool. How many people use the ChatGPT or OpenAI's APIs? How many people use it? Okay, cool. So there's like one or two people, a few people. How many people are using the chat app? Okay, perfect. Most people. So when you think of, they've done a very good job of leaning into the chat interface for them. On our side of the house, if you want to call it a competitor, Bard is our competitor. It's a little bit different on how I handle it, but it's a chat interface and engagement. So has anyone used Bard, actually? Oh, wow. Okay, great. So slightly fewer hands. But so that's a competitor. On my side of the house, my goal, so on the Gemini API and Google AI Studio, my side of the house is more focused on giving people the tools to build amazing things. We just so happen to have a low-code, no-code tool called Google AI Studio, formerly called MakerSuite. I think I've talked about MakerSuite in previous sessions. And so I think when you start to compare OpenAI to Google and where do we see the comparisons, I think you would start to make a comparison of OpenAI's APIs and Gemini's APIs, but I think that the functionality is a bit different, and I think the use cases are tailored a bit differently. On my side of the house, we're focused on 0 to 1 innovation. So we're kind of a startup within Google, I guess you could say, called Labs. On the cloud side of our house, it's more focused to the enterprise, et cetera. And so when you start to think about that, you think about Labs is creating, we're really focused, although we're focused on scale and getting adoption and all those great things, they all pay the bills, but we're actually focused on the innovation side of things. And this is why you see things like 1 million context window coming out. And so I think we don't compare ourselves on the Labs side of the house with OpenAI much. If anything, we root them on because we love just technical innovation. But we're focused more on the innovation, less on the traditional cloud side of the house, which is looking towards closing enterprise, creating amazing reliability, availability, support, all those great things that sales teams, et cetera. My team does launch an API. I'm on the product team. Me and a few other people are essentially the sales team, but we're on the product team. We're support as well. It's a tiny team. So I think about them very, very differently. Think about us as like an innovation arm, and we don't really see ourselves competing with OpenAI. Yeah.
Here's my final question before we open up the questions you guys are ready. 9 in the game. If this is a 9 in the game, where are we?
Oh God, we haven't even got started yet. Yeah.
So what do you see? I mean, if like the microprocessor, is there going to be one day a trillion? I mean, where are we in this? Where is this going in your mind?
I think like VR, AR, crypto, all of these technologies, I think we're all searching for the killer app. And so I don't know if we've created the killer app, and I don't even know if that would be our focus on Labs in my team. I think our interest is how do we create the tools for people to build? And so when I say we're really early on, it's less on, again, the what comes next. You could think about modalities and more co-piloting and agents. You can imagine, like, even if I take it outside the lab side of the house, you could imagine, how many people use Gmail? Great. How many people use Google Search? Fantastic. All of these surface areas are just going to you can imagine already most of them have gotten some AI element, but you're just going to start to see Google surface areas that have tons of users that rely on this every day start to pull in these generative AI advancements into the technology. So I think we still have a lot of, from what you know today about what exists today, we still have a lot of surface areas we haven't even gone into yet and that we haven't launched yet. And so I think we still have a lot of room just in that. From what happens next in the future, I actually think it depends on you guys. And I say that because, again, if you remember, my team's mission statement is to build developer tools for all of you. Developer tools. When I say developer tools, I mean technical and non-technical. Our goal is to build tools for you. I don't know if we're going to we probably won't get this working, but I will show you guys can come up after this, and I can show you the tool we have, which is a low-code, no-code tool that you can actually start to experiment in. But you're going to see it's pretty raw. It's the goal of these tools that we build is all about giving you the power to tell us what's next. And so we're pretty close to the customer. Again, we have no sales team. It's me and a few other people who are meeting with thousands of developers, individuals, companies sitting down with them saying like, what's working, what's not, what's next. And I think that you guys dictate what's next for us. But yeah, I think we still have a long way to go, is just getting generative AI and what exists today in just our surface areas. And then hopefully we figure out what's next, or oof, that'll get rough. So are you guys familiar with Palm and MakerSuite? Okay, I know you are. Okay, so Palm was just the predecessor to Gemini. It was our state-of-the-art model last year, I guess, at this point. Jeez. And MakerSuite was our low-code, no-code tool at that point. So we usually launch a low-code, no-code tool and the APIs together, and we give both different types of users access. They're super technical, would use or not super technical, but people who feel comfortable using API would use the API side of the house, and people who do not feel comfortable could use the low-code, no-code tool. I think we had an assumption we were going after developers, like the people who were trying to build infrastructure and trying to build and launch production apps for their companies or for themselves. I think we were going after that. I think that was pretty clear. It was a stance we were taking. But when Gemini launched, Gemini Pro and then Gemini 1.5, I think we relooked at it and just said, man, this modality, video modality, file upload modality, this is crazy. Like this is something that lots of people want to touch and experiment with. And I think we're open now. Maybe we have a new user, and I think we're still exploring. But our goal is always give people the tools, and let's see what happens with it. One of the biggest issues we have in generative AI in this space is that OpenAI had done such a great job of setting the standard and creating a brand around, again, I keep saying this, but this chat interface. So when people think about OpenAI, they think about ChatGPT. Actually, how many people know ChatGPT? How many people knew before I just said this that ChatGPT was owned by OpenAI? Okay, cool. So you do have association with it. But what's incredible is that when people think about this, with OpenAI, they think about ChatGPT directly. They don't think about Dolly. They don't think about the API. They don't even think about Sora until, maybe now because it's so public. But so I say that to say that what's really hard in this industry now is that everything is compared to it. And that's a great thing for OpenAI. It becomes a little difficult at other companies that are, Google is building Bard, and also a chat companion or a chat interface. But the power is, Bard is incredible power, quality's great. But there's so many things that Google's offering, like on my side of the house, the tools, the API. When I say tools, I mean developer tools, like the programming language, the client libraries, the API, the access to the LLM, so that you could write literally a few lines of code and have this type of functionality right out of the box. Pretty easily. You need to write a few lines of code, although I could show you from the low-code, no-code tool how to go to build this thing to exporting code and copy and paste and do it. So I think the first thing I'll say is that we aren't building today, my team is not building extensions. But Bard, on the other hand, is playing in this space and doing this. But my side of the house is like, build the tools for you. So I think when it comes to extensions and building productivity tools with the GPTs, the agents, all this stuff, that is a special secret sauce of OpenAI, and I think they've done a great job. Will there ever exist a similarity from ChatGPT in Google, and will this be in the surface areas that I use every day? Again, I don't have the roadmap of all the product areas at Google, but this functionality, you have to imagine pretty soon that it's already happening to some degree. Like, anyone use Google Docs and the generative AI features in Google Docs? Okay, so that's rolling out, right? So God, I'm so glad people raised their hand. I was like, did I leak something? I think you're already seeing that. And I think it's just a matter of time to give similar functionality of like, oh, I don't have to build an agent or a GPT over here. I can just use my Gmail that has this thing that's baked in that use it. You have to imagine that that's probably on the roadmap for Google. But the functionality exists today. And by the way, I keep leaning into functionality exists today because my team is focused on building tools for internal too. So when I talk about the API and I talk about Gemini API and I talk about the large language models, my team supports all the products. Oh, now you guys are gonna have lots of questions for me, but all the products that are launching internally at Google and all the external developers and influencers and creators as well. So again, if you're thinking about Gemini 1.5 as as like ChatGPT, it won't do those things like take this and put it in this folder, put it on my calendar, and also send me a reminder email, that's incredible functionality. The LLM doesn't do that today, but what it can do is with a little bit of code, you could create all that linkage very easily with very little code. You could even say, hey, LLM, give me the code to do this, copy and paste, do this. So you do need to do a little bit of programming, and that's why I keep coming back to like, Labs is very focused on giving you the tools to build it. Now, let's imagine Workspace. Do you use Workspace? You could imagine a world, I don't know their roadmap, but you can imagine a world where Workspace has a lot of your productivity tools. It has your Google Sheets, it has your Docs. You could imagine that being able to move around Workspace or even in the Google ecosystem of things, you have to imagine, because the tools exist today, you can imagine a world pretty easily where Google is building this functionality and building a UI tool for you to do these things very quickly. It doesn't exist today. It would be great, but build the tools first and then build the tools, see if they work, people use them, and then build the killer app, which this would be a killer app, by the way. I would use this quite a lot. Then build the killer app, I think is what we'll probably see now, but you couldn't do that today specifically. If you use the generative AI tools at Google specifically, I'll talk about that because I know about that one a lot better. We are pretty conservative on safety controls, where we have a team building a safety service for ensuring that the input and the output is completely looked at and make sure that it passes a safety bar. And we invest a ton of resources in this space. A, it's the right thing to do, but B, the liability at a big company like this is extreme. So there's a ton of resourcing that goes into this. Now, we also do tons of evals on all of these, looking for explicit content, appropriate content, et cetera. So we do a lot of safety and evaling on each of the models that we release. So I think heavily invested. Do things happen? Definitely. And when these things get flagged, you can imagine we're rolling back and getting ensuring that the model is updated and relaunched very quickly. But I would say that, and I'm not on that safety team, but heavily resourced. I mean, and every model that goes out is heavily evaled for all of this type of content. So yeah. So, and how do you protect against it? I think that the LLM out of the box is, I think we have to, I think there's a thing for us as Googlers and you as end users of this. And I'd say us as Googlers is to continue to invest in safety. It's the right thing to do. Misinformation, we see what misinformation does in this city and beyond. I think it's Google to continue to resource this. And just to be super clear, my organization, James Manika is the head of my organization. I don't know if anyone knows who James Manika is. Okay. So James Manika, we are under, I think it's Safety, AI, and Compliance. I forget the exact name of the org, but it falls under a safety part of the org, and so heavily invested in this. Google as a whole, as an entire organization, is heavily invested. But you as end users, I will say that there's also as you guys find inappropriate content, we get this all the time, by the way, but as you guys find this content, flagging it through the system, I mean, is an incredible thing for us too. I mean, there are, hopefully we don't miss things, but obviously we do, but we love the feedback, and we love when users reach out to us, and we get it quite a bit, and we react pretty quickly. There's a few things in the space that are already being flagged. I think plagiarism is a big risk. I think we're seeing this, and this is the beauty of an LLM, is for every use case, there's a counter to use the LLM to solve that use case. So plagiarism is like a really good example of, using the LLM, write this paper, and I will just take this and submit it. And people are writing on the opposite side, tell me if this is fact or fiction. Tell me if this is plagiarized. Tell me if this is rewritten. So people are doing both sides of the spectrum. I look at compute power and electricity, which is bigger than your question, but I look at this as, are we doing the right thing for the world? Our CO2 emissions with all this compute that's happening, are we, but again, on the opposite side, and I think I said this last time too, and I believe this. So you have this problem, carbon footprint, or CO2 emissions, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have people, now you have a tool where you can say, you have a thought partner, a very technical, deep-minded, very researched thought partner, a large language model, that you can ask and say, hey, I have this thing I'm doing. How do I reduce our carbon footprint? How do I reduce emissions? And you could now have something that you didn't have before. You only had a few researchers that could, studied this, but now we've democratized it. So I think that's probably another space. Can we use, are we using, and there's actually two ways to answer this. Are we using LLMs to advance, come up with technological advancements that are already happening in the world? Like, can we use an LLM to do that? And then the second part of that is, are these technological advancements that we're aware of, like fission or fusion, using AI itself with inside the system as opposed to being a thought partner with somebody? Are we using them inside the system to help accelerate these things? Is that safe to say? Yeah. Okay. Definitely. I don't know about that specific use case. I mean, I know a lot about the physics behind that specific use case, but I don't know about the generative AI aspects of it. But there are definitely, looking at our devices and the Vision Pro and our computers and everything we've talked about tonight, I think you're already seeing generative AI baked into these things, improving these things. Like using generative AI to create CPU efficiency, compute efficiency. Using generative AI to, someone did an amazing demo the other day of using a visually impaired individual, putting a camera on their glasses and having it take screenshot images and feeding that to a generative AI or an LLM and having it give a description of what's happening. You've seen, so that's possible today. Something that was possible a while back, but just to hit this home as well, like real-time translator, this is done with AI as well. So I think this is definitely the case. We are definitely using generative AI to advance and even augment technology. I think that's the goal of it, right? I think that it's about the system itself. On the other side of the spectrum, I think you're also seeing today if I were using the non-technical version of this, it's like having your LLM friend Gemini sitting next to you being like, write that blog post, here it is. This is happening. So you're having this thought partner with you. So again, I don't know specifically about the generative AI and fission use case, but it's already taking over, augmenting and advancing all the technologies that are happening today. It's everywhere for sure.
Well, what I'd love to do is phase this part of it, and thank Arthur for a couple of things. One is spending time here. Secondarily, helping New Orleans get a competitive advantage. I mean, if we can sort of have a competitive advantage of understanding these tools and use those tools, and more importantly, challenge New Orleanians to focus on what's next. So give me a round of applause for Arthur, please.